All right, learning target 6. We've gotten some practice on our review sheets, so hopefully this is a pretty. Hopefully you guys are going to do well at it. I'm really hoping because it's a tough thing to teach, and I'll explain why here in a minute. Okay, the target is I can fluently divide multi-digit numbers using the standard algorithm. Now, the word algorithm can be used in many different ways. Using the algorithm in this case would be like 2000, let's say 232 divided by 4. The algorithm is actually doing this, the whole thing, putting it in the house and all that. That's all algorithm means, okay? I don't want you to think algorithm just simply means multiply by the reciprocal. It doesn't. Algorithm, we're going to use that language a lot of times. Now, in your notes, the notes kind of got messed up here somehow. I'm not sure, but you're going to go to the second to last page in your notes right now. The second to last page, and it should look just like this. Okay, it's actually out of order. This is actually supposed to be, and go ahead and write this please, learning target number 6. Okay? Now learning target 7 is actually you're going to go past that to get to 6. 6 and 7 are flipped, but shouldn't be any too big of a deal, I don't think. Again, it got messed up because this right here is actually, we're not even going to pay attention because this is actually decimals. Dividing decimals is actually next unit, so we shouldn't have this shouldn't be here. So this is just simply learning how to divide these numbers. Okay. Now I know that in your notes this is supposed to be way over here. Don't even ask. Don't even ask. It's a long story, but anyway, first of all, we identify the dividend. This is the divisor. The dividend always goes inside the house, or inside the division house, I guess we can call it that, and then it goes on the outside. Okay. Now, when you do division, now there's an acronym that I might teach you here in a little bit, and you guys know, like PEMDAS is an acronym. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Like when you take the first letter and make like a sentence like that, and there's something to help you remind how to divide. We might go over that, but I don't know if we need to this year. So let's try. Okay, so we take the number 5 here, and we ask ourselves, can 5 go into 3? No, it can't. 3 is smaller. You can't multiply a whole number to get to 3. Absolutely not. So some people like to put an X there. Some teachers teach you that in elementary school. They put an X. They basically say that place value is gone. In other words, this right here is the hundreds. Okay, that's going to be the hundreds up there. So therefore, it's gone. Now, you don't have to. And other teachers, they learn to put zeros. I just say go ahead and leave it blank. Because when I write the number 25, I don't write 025 or 0025, but realistically, that's still 25. So I just go ahead and leave them blank, and I say, okay, I'm going to go on to the next place value. And I ask myself, how many times could 5 go into 36? Okay, now this is where I mentioned on a couple of review sheets ago, I said, there's 2 things that 6th graders struggle with. I said one is their multiplication tables, and the other is their rounding ability and their place values. And both are applied here. Place values are applied, and multiplication charts, obviously. If you're somebody that's not good at your multiplication tables, okay, we really got to improve. Now, I will give you a multiplication chart on the test that will allow you to use, okay? But if you do use a calculator, if you were to use a calculator, now, when I say use a calculator, I don't mean do 535 divided by 5, or I'm sorry, 565 divided by 5. We're not going to do it that way. We're not doing it to find an answer. When I say figure out how many times 5 can go into 36, we got to do that. So we got to do 36 divided by 5. We're just going to take the number in there and divide it by 5. That's one step. Now we're going to get a decimal. We knew that because this doesn't end in 5 or 0. So we knew already that we were going to get a decimal in here. We knew 5 wasn't a factor of 36. So what does this mean? Hopefully you guys can see this. What does it mean? It means that 5 can go into 35 7 times and then a partial amount. Well, we don't even worry about the partial, so all we worry about is the whole number part. So we know that 5 can go into 36 at least 7 times. Okay, you got to make sure you use that. Okay, now we multiply around. We always multiply back around. 7 times 5 is 35. And we put that. Notice how I'm lining it up. Oh, I forgot to mention this. Look how I lined up my 7. I put it over top of the 6. You gotta do that. Trust me. But next unit you'll see why. Okay? So now I got to subtract. Okay? So I do that and I get 1. Now there's a whole check thing. And this thing that this acronym that I'm probably not going to teach you in the video, but I might show you in class, it basically goes through and tells you each step, step by step by step. But there's one that's called check. And when you check, you have to make sure that when you subtract, this number right here has got to be smaller than that 5. Okay? Let me give you an example why. Let's say you thought this was 6. Okay? And you thought, oh, it goes in 6 times. You get down here, you go, okay, there's 30. I subtract and I get 6. Well, you can't do this because this number is larger than that. So that means there's another 5 that could go into 36. Okay? This number that after you subtract always has to be smaller than your divisor. Okay? So, getting back to the regular, we said it goes in 7 times. That's 35. Subtract and we get 1. Okay, we check to make sure that's smaller. It is. Now we bring down. We bring down our 5. Okay? Now we're resetting the whole thing. Now we're basically saying this. We're resetting. How many times will 5 go into 15? Okay? It'll go in 3 times. Then we multiply. 3 times 15 equals 0. This is the key. We must have 0 in at the bottom of this. We got to. The answer is 73. Now, if you wanted to check your answer to make sure, do 73 times 5. You guys all know how to do that. 5. Sorry. 5, 1, 35, 36, 365. Okay? Let's do another. 1440 divided by 30. 1,440 divided by 30. Okay? Let's ask ourselves, does 30 go into... Sorry about that. Does 30 go into 1? No, it doesn't. Can 30 go into 14? Nope. Can 30 go into 144? Absolutely. So again, we can use our calculator here, and we can do 144, oops, 144, dang it, 144 divided by 30. And we're going to get a decimal. But we know it goes in at least 4, or at most 4 whole times. Okay? Notice I put the 4 right above my last place value. Now I can multiply around. Okay, I know that 4 times 3 is 12, and then I can just add on my 0. Now I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to get 24. Okay, check to make sure that's smaller than 30. It is. Now we must bring down our 0. 30 goes into 240. Now, maybe you remember this from my review sheet, but let's just think about this without those zeros. How many times would 3 go into 24? 8 times. Okay, well, it's no different if those zeros are on there. So this is 8. Multiply around, you get 240 with 0 remainder. Okay? Now, if you were somebody that maybe you're sitting there going, why? He just made that really hard. Why didn't he, from the beginning, just eliminate these zeros? Well, if you were thinking that, incredible. Good job. Because remember, you can always eliminate zeros if you have 1 here and 1 here. Even if it was 1440, let me show you this before I go on. 1440 divided by 300. Well, you couldn't eliminate both of them, but you could still eliminate 1, and then at least you're doing 30 divided by 144. So you eliminate your zeros. Now you got 144 divided by 3. That's much easier to work with, guys. Because now it's like 3 goes into 14. I know that goes in there 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 goes into 24 8 times. It's the same answer. Okay? And then you can always check your work. 48 times 30. Okay? 0, 0, 0, 4, 2, 12, 14. You see your answer is 1440. Okay? Let's go to the next page. We only got 2 more here. I'd like you to try these next 2. Again, I'm sorry because I know they're over to the right when they should be to the left. But go ahead and do 57 divided by 12. Actually, scratch that. Let me do 57 divided by 12 for you. And then I'll have you do that last one. So just bear with me, because there's something special about this one that I got to talk about. 57 divided by 12. Okay, I don't know why I wrote it like that. It's already written like that. 57 divided by 12. Okay, and I asked myself, how many times will 12 go into 57? Well, I think, okay, 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times 3 is 36. 12 times 4 equals 48. Okay, that's getting closer to 57. Now let's try 12 times 5. That equals 60. So we went over 57. So that means that it must be a maximum of 4 whole times. I multiply around. I get 48. Okay, I subtract these. I'm going to get 9. Okay, now we don't have any numbers left here. Okay, this is what we went through on our review sheet. Okay, and we have nothing to bring down. There's nothing here. But you got to think of a way to make 57. How can we take the number 57 and not change it? Well, it's easy. You can add as many zeros onto here as you want, because after the decimal, 57 is the exact same thing as 57.00000. So that's what we're going to do. We have got to, because we cannot have R9. We're not doing that anymore. That is not appropriate. Now, if we're doing mixed numbers, hopefully you remember it's 9/12. It'd be 4 and 9/12, which is actually 4 and 3/4. But that's not what we're doing either. This is trying to get it to be a decimal. Okay, so we're going to add our decimal. We're going to add a 0. Now we're going to bring down that 0. Okay, now let's think. How many times can 12 go into 90? Well, if you need to use your calculator, 90 divided by 12 equals 7.5. So we don't even worry about the partial. We just know that it goes in at least 7 times. Now, here's the mistake that a lot of students make. This decimal has to go straight up. You have to put it up there or the question will be wrong. So if you add a decimal in, you got to put it right in there in the same spot. Okay, so 12 times 7, that is 84. Okay, we subtract, we get 6. Now we check, is 6 less than 12? Absolutely. We still don't have 0 as our remainder. So guess what? Add another 0, bring it down. Okay, now 12 goes into 60, and I think back and I said, wait a minute. I said 12 times 5 equals 60. So there you go. I know that it's 5. 5 times 12 is 60. We subtract. Now we got a remainder of 0. Your answer is 4.75. Okay? All right, you go ahead and try number 4 there, and then that'll be it. Okay? All right, I have 329, and I'm dividing by 14. Okay? Now in my head, I hope you guys are doing this too. I'm already thinking about the multiples of 14. And I'm just going up by 14s, and I'm just thinking about it, and I'm going, okay, so that'll help me. Can 4 go into 3? Clearly not. No. So can 4 go into 32? Yeah, it can. Right there, right? It can go in 2 times. 2 times 14 is 28. I subtract this. I'm going to get 4. And yeah, you could borrow here. You probably should. There you go. Now I check, is 4 less than 14? Absolutely, we're good there. Now I'm going to bring down my 9. Now I already got my multiples of 14 written here. Let's figure out. Okay, I look right here and I say, and I'll change colors. I say, okay, 14 times 1 would be 14. 14 times 2 is 28. 14 times 3 is 42. And then times 4 is 56. That would go over, so that can't be right. So this goes in at most 3 whole times. Now I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to subtract and get 7. Okay, so we're good so far. So we know it's 23. The problem is we can never stop right there. We got to have a 0 as our remainder. So if there only was a way we could change this number without really changing it. Yep. Remember, we can add a decimal and bring down a 0. This is the hardest thing about this, remembering that. But remember, if you put a 0 right there, you got to put a 0 right there. Notice how when we did 32, I put the 2 right above the 2. And when we did 49, I put the 3 right above the 9. You have to be neat with this. If you're not gonna, your decimal's not gonna be right in the spot. I can guarantee it. Okay. Now I've got 70 down here, and I already knew that 70 was a multiple of 14 times 5, so that gave it away. I know that that's going to be 5 times 14 is 70. Now we subtract and get 0. Okay? So that's that. Hopefully you got this right when you did it. Otherwise, we're going to get a lot of practice in. Okay? I will see you guys tomorrow.